Colorado makes history. It's college football smothered and covered.
You are Locked On College Football, smothered and covered, with your host, Barrett Sallee. Your one-stop shop for everything college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, thank you for making this your first listen every single day. Really appreciate all that you do. Go follow on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, share, ring that notification bell, all of that stuff. Really appreciate everything you do. We have a bonus episode coming up, of course, late night Saturday night. We'll also have some instant reaction shows as well, but it's Friday, which means Friday 5 and future headlines. But first today, brought to you by FanDuel. $5 gets you $200 in bonus bets. That's right. Your first $5 bet gets you $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. Go to FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Okay, we will have future headlines at the back end of this show. Of course, that's what on Sunday morning you'll read in your virtual newspaper. So we'll have future headlines coming up. We'll also have Friday 5 picks, over-unders in segment 2. But in segment 1, we have the game picks. We got 3 game picks in the Friday 5. And first things first, Cincinnati and Colorado. How many of you thought before the season that we'd be sitting here on October 25th talking about Colorado and Cincinnati as one of the biggest Big 12 games of the year? Anybody? Bueller? Put your hand down if your hand's raised. No, you didn't. Nobody did. And yet, here we are on October 25th, looking at Saturday late night's game between the Buffs and the Bearcats in Boulder as one that can shape the landscape of the November Big 12 title race. Colorado 6.5-point favorites over a Cincinnati team that has flown under the radar. Take the Buffaloes, lay the 6.5. Now, there's some injury concerns. Travis Hunter, we know what he's been dealing with. He apparently is feeling fine. That's what Deion says. Now, do we trust everything that comes out of not just Deion, but every coach's mouth when it comes to injuries before game weeks? No, of course not. Of course not. They're into mind games. They treat college football practices like, they have they're the home of the nuclear codes. Colorado, not as much as other teams, but still, you don't necessarily trust a coach. You don't take him for his word, but a 75% Travis Hunter, I'll take all day, all night, all evening long, to quote Kilo Ali. If a 7-point win cashes a Colorado ticket on a game at night in Boulder, we've seen how crazy that place can get. You lay those points. Colorado gets the job done. I think they win by double digits. I don't think Cincinnati has anybody who can cover those wide receivers. And Shedeur Sanders is an absolute freak. And the offensive line has been playing better. And plus, I just don't like the coaching staff at Cincinnati. I think anybody who's listened or watched or read knows what I feel about the Cincinnati staff. So, take Colorado, lay the points. You will be very happy around 1:30 in the morning. At least your bank account will be. Don't know about the other things you were doing. I don't know what else you're doing on Saturday night, late night. That's your business. My business is college football. And on Friday, it's the Friday 5 picks. Next up on the game lines in the Friday 5, we're going to go BYU plus 2.5 at UCF. This is our wild card game on our pick story on Outkick. Trey Wallace and I make our expert picks. We do one bonus game that we really love, and this is it. BYU plus 2.5. Wrong team favored. The Cougars are on a mission, and UCF, which I used to love. Gus Malzahn has been on this show. I love Gus Malzahn. Great guy. Quarterback issues, though. Ja'Cory Brown in for KJ Jefferson. I know RJ Harvey's there. You guys know how I feel about RJ Harvey. I do not care. BYU's defense, especially those big uglies up front, will shut that UCF rushing attack down. And if that's the case, you're putting way too much on the quarterback position. And at UCF, that quarterback position is, I guess the way to describe it properly, a hot mess. And I say this all the time about BYU. This is how you can judge if BYU is going to be good. Before the season, if they've got old dudes that have families, that have mortgages up front on the offensive line on either side, that's a problem. I did not take my own advice this summer. I focused too much on the new look of the Big 12 rather than something that is tried and true with BYU. I apologize. BYU plus 2.5. Grab the points, but you won't need them because BYU will win that game outright. Last one of game picks. We're going to go Penn State minus 6.5 at Wisconsin. We talked about this earlier in the week. We did our Big Ten best bet, and this was it. This was it. I feel like there's some disrespect on Penn State's name. You see that number 3, and it's almost like you look at it like, did they miss half of it? Was it supposed to be an 8? Did they miss? Did it like get cut off by a printer? But no, here they are. I think they're on a mission to prove their worth. Now, Penn State's schedule is what it is. It hasn't been great. They haven't really had a chance to prove that they are title worthy yet. Can they do that at Wisconsin? Typically in some seasons, yes, because Wisconsin's a lot better than they actually are. Not this year, but it is Camp Randall. And we know Camp Randall, even though it is, I think, a little overrated in terms of the intimidation factor, it is still tough to play there. And knowing James Franklin, got to know him a little bit when he was at Vandy. Primarily, I've covered the SEC for the majority of my 24-year career doing this. So, I got to know him a little bit. This is perfectly set up for him to run it up and leave no doubt, because he's not going to have a lot of chances to truly show the world that this team can win at the elite level. So when you're in a situation like this on the road against a historically powerful Big Ten team, you take that opportunity and you run with it. And run with it is exactly what I mean. They're going to beat Wisconsin playing Wisconsin ball. They're going to use those running backs and just wear down that front seven. And you are going to see Drew Aller work off that and take a few shots deep to take the top off that defense once those safeties creep up. He can do that. I was wrong about Drew Aller. I did not buy into the hype. I did not buy into what people were selling. And I was wrong. I've been wrong. And James Franklin will further prove me wrong on Saturday. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will do the 2 remaining games. They are over-unders. And we'll do that next. A reminder, you can join the subtext group. Subtext group is great. You can text me. I can text you. You can ask me questions personally. I will text you back. I will give you unique insights during the games, throughout the week. I had some great interaction on the subtext group during the Kennesaw State Liberty game, which I was at a couple days ago. So you can do that. Just go in the description below, whether you're watching or listening, and you can see that. Today's show brought to you by our good friends at PrizePicks. It's the best place to get real money with sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awards winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season, all long with PrizePicks. Let me tell you, I got into PrizePicks. You got COVID, golf came back, NASCAR came back, Supercross came back, although that PrizePicks wasn't doing that yet. But I had to scratch that itch, right? I had to scratch that itch, and I did that with PrizePicks. I'm not the biggest NASCAR guy. I used to be not the biggest. It got me back into NASCAR. I love golf, so took care of a lot of golf too. So PrizePicks helped me get through the COVID shutdown when sports started to come back. It's the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. They invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. PrizePicks puts its members first, so all withdrawals fees are safe, fast, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play your first $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. Download the app today and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. Download the app, promo code LOCKEDONCollege. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, 2 more in the Friday 5, and of course, those are over-unders. And so we're going to start. It's funny. Historically, last 5, 6, 7, forever years, we talk about how they can't make point totals low enough for Iowa games. And we have Northwestern Iowa this week. So historically, you would think, oh, it's 32. Neither of these teams can do 32. It's 37.5. I hate picking Iowa over, but I'm going to pick Iowa over. They're going to bounce back from the Michigan State game. Caleb had that long 75-yard run that didn't really count for anything. But if you go back and look at how Iowa has played this year, we know their offense can crank things up. Yes, Northwestern has a relatively stout defense, but I think this is going to be a game where you look at Iowa as one of those teams where they established the run early, got a couple key plays, kind of tone it down a little bit, and then once things are settled, you're going to see even more big plays on the ground. Because I like Caleb Johnson. I like Iowa. I think they'll be okay. Plus 37.5. I mean, I'm thinking Iowa gets high 20s, maybe even low 30s. So I think this will be an easy over. And I hate to say that about Iowa games because usually there is never an easy over. I think in this one, at homecoming in Iowa City at Kinnick, you will see Iowa have a relatively good offensive day by Iowa standards. Definitely a different kind of bar than others. Last one in the Friday 5, Miami, Florida State, under 54.5. Florida State can't score. Florida State cannot score. Quarterback situation has been a mess ever since they walked out of that tunnel in Ireland. That's not going to change. Brockland, fine, dude, do your thing. Cool. But Miami is going to shut them down. Shut them down. Florida State's not even going to get in the double digits in this game. I think Miami's defense is that well, and more importantly, Florida State's an absolute mess offensively. So if that's the case, if the over-under is 54, where are we going to settle on Miami? Are they going to run the score up on their bitter rival? To an extent. I don't think it's necessarily running the score up. I think it's how you embarrass Florida State. And I fully believe that getting up big and then toning it down to a point where everybody on the planet knows you almost feel sorry for your opponent is much more of a statement. So, and I think that's what Mario Cristobal is going to do. So I think under 54.5 is the play here. I don't see Florida State's offense having any success against Miami, and Miami can run the dang ball, which means the clock keeps rolling. And in the new timing rules in college football, that means you're cutting out what? 7, 8, 9, 10 plays in a game. It's going to be hard to hit that over 54. Saying it's going to be really, really hard. Subtext, join it right below. We'll have some fun tomorrow on Subtext. Headlines coming up next. College football smothered and covered. Hey, we're brought to you by FanDuel. You know, FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. I'm not sure if you've heard that on this show, but you should know by now because we love FanDuel. And, you know, in the middle of the game, whatever game you're watching, you get a hunch on something, anybody. You know, if you're watching, I don't know, let's say Auburn, and you think suddenly Auburn's going to figure out that Jarquez Hunter is a real person who exists on this planet, and you look at his over and you're like, I think in the middle of the game, he's gonna have some success. You can go on FanDuel. You can look right there on the same page where you place your bets. It's all there for you. Stats, play-by-play, everything. First $5 bet gets you $200 in bonus bets. That's right. $5 bet gets you $200 in bonus bets at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Future headlines. Future headline. I never thought I'd be saying this in the year of our Lord 2024. Colorado is going to clinch a bowl game in the month of October. I never thought I'd say that. I didn't buy into Colorado fixing its offensive line problems to a point where they can actually play somewhat functional offense. And yet here we are. They're hosting Cincinnati late Saturday night. Both teams can clinch a bowl game in one of the bigger Big 12 games of the season. It'll be Colorado that does it. And in your virtual newspapers on Sunday morning, you will read in big, bold print, "Going bowling." At some point, we have to start talking about Colorado in a much different sense. As a team that, you know, can keep you honest. Can look at you across the sideline and think, you know what? We are your equal. We're your equal. That's where Colorado is right now. If you listen to Tom Luganbill and I on me and Tom Luganbill, sorry, proper grammar, on Sirius XM on Sunday mornings, you know how reluctant we've been. We've thought that for the most part, Colorado sizzle, no steak. We've talked consistently that, you know what, Deion might walk out the door when Shedeur and Shiloh leaves. I don't know the answer to that. But what I do know is that this is one of the best coaching jobs of the season. Does that mean he's going to win Coach of the Year? No. That's going to probably be Curt Cignetti. But Deion deserves respect for doing what a lot of people never thought he would do, and that is have Colorado on the brink of a bowl game this year, much less the brink of a bowl game before the leaves start changing colors in the southeastern part of the United States. Boulder, they probably already have. The aspen trees are beautiful there. But going bowling, that is headline number 1. Headline number 2, Tiger tracks. Those LSU Tigers are going to begin making their tracks to Atlanta. And the reason I say that is because they're slight underdogs in Kyle Field against Texas A&M in what we all knew would be the biggest SEC game of the year, right? Did you? You didn't think that. I didn't think it either. But defense that's coming along, offense that has an identity, going up against a quarterback in Connor Wegman, who I know the upside's there. We've seen it, but the floor is still pretty low. You're going to see a lot of that floor on Saturday. Tigers making those tracks to Atlanta and the Big Bens with a big win over the Aggies. And I tell you what, the winner of this game will be playing in the SEC championship game. If LSU wins, those tracks are going to lead all the way to those locker rooms. Fully believe that. So Tiger tracks, because LSU gets the big win. Last one, Ohio statement. Are we kind of losing sight of Ohio State? I kind of feel like we are. It's like they lost to Oregon, and it's like, okay, Ohio State, move them back a little bit. You know, we're going to talk about Penn State. We're going to talk about Indiana. We're going to talk about Miami. We're going to talk about all these teams that are in the national title race, and there's Ohio State in the top 5. You're like, huh. Oh, yeah. Those guys still exist. They're going to show you they exist. I say this a lot. The early window in college football, the early window of TV times, kickoffs, matters a lot because it sets the tone for the next day, the discussion. Like Indiana last week, blowing out Nebraska in the early window on Big Noon Saturday, set them up to be the talk of college football, set them up to get game day. I firmly believe that because there are better games than Washington, Indiana. A lot better games this year. And that was even before Curtis Rourke went out with an injury. But that set the tone for the weekend, that big win over Nebraska. And that's exactly what's going to happen with Ohio State. They're going to remind the world that, hey, we're still the big bad Buckeyes. We're still a team that can not only get to the playoff, but damn it, we can win it. And look, it's Nebraska. I get it. That doesn't move the meter all that much, but it will because it'll be one of the first things we talk about in college football, and that will linger throughout the course of the day into Sunday and into next week because it will remind us all that Ohio State is legit. They're here to play, and they ain't going anywhere. We're going somewhere, though. We're going to wrap up this show on a Friday edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. Reminder, you can join the subtext. Hey, you know what? The subtext group's great. I love you guys. You've done a great job joining. I really encourage you to, those of you who have not, to do it. I love getting messages right here on my cell phone of all of you saying, you know what? I think this is going to happen. I send out a message, say, hey, you know what? This is something I noticed during the Kennesaw State game. I said, look, Liberty looks like varsity. Kennesaw State looks like their JV in terms of overall player size. And it's the truth. Except, dude, that Kennesaw State team, so well coached, so fundamentally sound. And I said that in the second quarter. Turns out Kennesaw State won. You don't get knowledge like that anywhere except on the subtext group. So sign up in the description below. You will see it. Thanks for making this your first listen. Hey, for your second listen right now, right this very second, go check out Locked On College Football. Spencer McLaughlin does a great job getting you ready for the weekend as well. We'll be back tomorrow, definitely late night, but also instant reaction to any big stories that pop throughout the course of the day. Until then, have a great Friday afternoon, Friday night, Saturday morning, and we'll talk to you once kickoff happens.